we were testing the stream setup. We had Ben and Tinfang as one of the rounds for our test stream, and they wound up being the last match of our normal Pioneer Weekly event, which is 3 rounds. So it was for the 3-0 for the event, and it was for basically top seed. And it was Ben playing Gruul Prowess and Tinfang playing Azorius Lotus Field Control. And the Lotus Field player not getting the best draws, but still kind of just eking out some wins to go to some top deck temporary lockdowns. The deck list is tech to, I believe, Tinfang previously. I don't know if this is still the case. Was running main deck Settle the Wreckage as
Also,
well.
discontinuity.
Discontinuity, obviously, for the Lotus Field triggers. Having a pile of those in hand. There were a couple of awkward games where the discontinuity wasn't actually able to be used because the Lotus Field player thought they were turning the corner, and then all of a sudden you have those slick shot show off turns that come out of there from the Gruul players.
That's why I was curious. I was like, ooh, I don't know what it is.
So we are going to be setting up for match number 2 at Pioneer Evening here at Card Art in Sunnyvale, California. The players are swapped, so we are going to get that fixed for you. It's actually going to be Ben on the left-hand side playing the red-green Prowess deck, and then Tinfang is going to be on the right playing the Azorius Lotus Field Control deck, which will, as we said, normally you would think that a control deck into an aggro deck is going to be having a slightly favorable matchup, even though the aggro decks are kind of tech to go underneath some of those control spells. The Lotus Field deck kind of has a double-edged sword to it. You have Lotus Field, which means that you could potentially get your mana out there really, really quickly. But against an aggro deck, if you're not really using spells until turn 3 or 4 at earliest, the red decks can go right underneath you, and it's very difficult to come back from a lower life total when you're playing a deck that doesn't necessarily have the same control draw spells and just the power level of Wandering Emperor and Teferi Hero Dominaria.
Yeah, so Tinfang recently was at Lucid Combat Games RCQ. Last Saturday was in the finals and lost with this probably the same list, I'm pretty sure.
Do you know what they were playing against in the finals?
I think they were playing Niv Delight, which is one of the more favored matchups for this deck.
Hate that deck.
But it's just unfortunate. I think it's just obviously we're playing a game that has variance, so you can't really do much about it. But we're just gonna be really excited to see Tinfang and Ben just pilot this game out.
Yep, so we're getting it right from the get-go this time, so we're even seeing the roll to see who goes first. But Ben on the Prowess side has Giganta as a companion. The Gruul Prowess deck going to be something that obviously wants to have a very explosive hand. It's going to be very similar to the mono-red deck that we saw in the previous round, where it's going to be relying on the power of Slick Shot Show Off to really explode out of the gate, but it's going to be a little bit more of the Boros heroic style, where you have cards like Audacity, you have Demonic Ruckus to give +1/+1 and Menace. All of these auras are going to be triggering the prowess or pseudo prowess abilities of their creatures, and you're going to be trying to end the game as quickly as possible, a little bit taller than the mono red deck will go, where they go kind of wide on the board, like we saw with all those Den of the Bugbear tokens and everything.
You should keep those.
Yeah, so it looks like Tinfang's gonna roll down to 6. Ben jokingly this is telling Ting to keep that hand, even though it's probably just terrible.
I mean, there are some games where, as the control player, you look at a hand and it's basically 5 lands, a spell that you can cast on turn 5, and like maybe a sensor or something, and you just snap keep those.
Yeah, but that takes only down to 5. A little bit rough here. So a little bit of background, if my knowledge correct, I know Tinfang has been to the Pro Tour before. In the past. I also, if I remember too, Ben has also been to the Pro Tour. So I'm expecting a high quality match here in round number 2.
Well, in addition to high quality match, I'm also expecting high banter from these two.
Oh yeah, since these two are actually very close friends, so they will just banter each other the entire time.
That's true. So as you see Ben already putting the counter down on the board, just be like, all right, Tinfang, you mulligan twice already. So like, what are you going for? And we can see here, Tinfang going to be drawing up, like you said, mulligan to 5. Not the best place to be as the control player, but I do believe that Tinfang is on the play. I believe Ben was not happy about the die roll. So if being on the play with 5 cards in hand, not the worst place to be. I already see potentially a get lost in Tinfang's hand there. So if you have land, Lotus Field, get lost, something else, it's not the worst start to have from the Lotus deck.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Minty Fresh in chat. Yes, so Ben is already qualified to RC Washington DC. So, well, Tinfang is in the hunt still for his qualification.
Ooh, and Tinfang looks like he's going down to 4 here.
4 is a little bit brutal in
That's-
this matchup.
Yeah, when you're on 4 cards as a Lotus Field deck and you know that you're going to be playing against an aggressive deck, your best shot is usually going to be enough lands to cast a temporary lockdown, and having the lockdown or something along the lines of a Settle the Wreckage from Tin Fang's list in your hand. But as the Prowess player, you know your opponent's on 4 cards. You know your opponent is looking for some sort of like interaction for your super fast game plan. You just don't have to play everything in your hand. So this is greatly favored for Ben, even if they're on the draw. This is going to be something where Tin Fang's down on cards. We do see a temporary lockdown in Tin Fang's hand. So as long as Ben doesn't overcommit to the battlefield, I mean, Slickshot Show Off having plot is great because it gets around all these board wipes. Slickshot Show Off having haste is great because post temporary lockdown, you just slam it and haste on in, and we'll have to see if that's what Ben decides to do.
So this is gonna be a shock stopping ground for Ben. Going down to 18 here. While Tin Fang turn wants to play the Sunken Citadel.
Believe it can be naming blue with that as well.
Oh, looks like Ting is having a hard time trying to find the.
Oh, there we go. It's a plane, so
Yeah,
it is
so-
actually white.
Yeah, so Ting we do have mana tokens for the players. Maybe we can message probably Garrett, tell him that it's in the back of
We'll have
our
to see.
token box.
But it looks like double white here, so very clearly signaling that there's going to be a temporary lockdown. We see Ben almost just popping off that slick shot there, but double thinking about it now that he knows that there's 2 white mana from the side of Tin Fang's battlefield. Really mulling over. I mean, being able to plot the slick shot show off for a later turn is solid, but it looks like debating if he wants to just slam it down and get in there for 2, which he does wind up doing.
So it looks like a swing out with the slick shot and the Soul Scar Mage. Two Ting Fang going down to 18. So
There it is.
there it is. Temporary lockdown comes out. So as Ting would like to say, I'm so stable. That is probably his like most used word I always talk to him about.
All right, so we'll see what the follow-up here. We do see a Kumano in hand, so it could be Kumano into second slick shot, which I think is on the edge of the hand there for Ben, which could be just a very powerful sequence here, as that's going to be an additional 1 life away, and then could wind up having, light up the stage from that is even better. So now we just got an extra 2 spells coming out from Ben.
It's 2 Wizard's Lightning as well, so not the best 2. But if he's able to get out a Wizard, it wouldn't be bad at all.
I mean, tap land, pass. I believe there's a slick shot show off, a monstrous rage, and an unknown card in Ben's hand. This could be a very explosive turn if he winds up going land, Soulscar Mage, slick shot, Wizard's Lightning. That's a lot of damage coming across the Tin Fang. As Tin Fang here with all white mana.
Ting Fang out here emoting in front of Ben with all his giggles. So it looks like we all can get Wizard out, get the Wizard's Lightning, hit the face, go down to 15 for Ting Fang, actually down to 14.
Yeah, because there's also the ping coming out from the Kumano, and then there's going to be an attack in here for 2 from the Gitu Lava Runner. That additional Wizard's Lightning being cast, not only is it reduced to 1 mana because we have a wizard on the battlefield, but it is going to be getting the additional spell in the graveyard to give that haste.
Ting Fang looking on play. Oh, it looks like a Wandering Emperor being flashed in for Ting Fang.
This is a very solid 4-card key.
Yeah, this is such a good 4-card key for Ting Fang. Oh, actually, so the second was like going to go on the Wandering Emperor. We're still going to get the token, though.
Yep. No, it looks like it was an exile on the Gitu Lava
okay.
Runner, so
yeah.
gaining 2 life, which is probably pretty crucial if there's going to be any sort of follow-up coming out from Ben here.
So pass from Ben. Ting Fang untapping. Yeah, actually, this is probably one of the best 4s you actually can't keep. It's a bit ridiculous how it... Now this game, this looks completely fine for Ting Fang's side.
Yeah, and this is the position that the Prowess deck can sometimes find itself in, where you commit to a board, they have the exact answer that you need, you try to rebuild, they have the exact answer that you need, and then the control deck starts to kind of run away with the game here. Ben, though, is going to be off to attack. We do know there's a Monstrous Rage in hand, so this kind of denotes, yes, another light up the stage coming out from Ben to try to get some extra card advantage here.
Yeah, a lot of these red players just keep on getting light up the stage every time. What's happening here?
I mean, light up the stage, very powerful card here. Ben does have the option of just passing the turn here and not playing the Lava Runner into something, and it looks like
yeah.
is going to be the play. Just buys Gigantha and is setting up for a powerful swing next turn with the Kumano flip, with the Lava Runner active, and then having that Monstrous Rage in hand in addition to whatever that second
But
card
literally,
is.
Ting's on to copy the Hollow Fountain, so maybe we're looking just for the double blue.
Definitely needs the extra blue mana here. So now Tin Fang signaling that there could be counter magic, there could be something
actually,
along
looks
the
like a-
lines of 3 steps ahead in their
Yeah.
hand.
I don't think Ting does play it, but it looks like a Get Lost. This is probably one of the better cards you can have in this matchup, especially. Or this could be also. We all know that Ting Feng does have the main deck settle the wreckages, so be a little bit wary on swinging out wide against this.
To swing down to 4 here, so there's going to be 10 life now for Tin Fang, and I believe I saw an adventure card in Ben's hand. Now this could be Bonecrusher Giant, but it could also be Rimrock Knight, which would be a very big addition to swing here. But it looks like just going to be casting Gigantha, and that Get Lost does wind up happening here.
And also there's Odawara as well.
Are you okay with that?
So Odawara, bring back the temporary lockdown to hand.
What a play.
Wow. So Tig is just gonna play the temporary lockdown once more again. Everything just goes back. What a play by Ting Fang.
That's one of those heads-up plays that you don't necessarily see all the time. That's why Odawara makes these lists over Brazen Borrower. If that was a petty theft right there, you can't bounce your own permanent. But Odawara being able to do so bounces a temporary lockdown, basically board wipes, and now it's all up to this questing druid in hand to try to start rebuilding. But another monstrous rage, so it's just a bunch of spells coming out from Ben here.
So literally monsters be cast on top of the druid, put out one more counter.
Gets the roll token as well. Not going to be able to swing in this turn, but Ben fighting through all of this removal, but Tin Fang now completely in top deck mode.
Yeah, complete top deck mode now. But I think so. His board, as you like to say, he's pretty stable, so he can take a couple hits to at least build up his hand.
So we do know that there's Monstrous Rage in hand from Ben, so that represents 3 damage there, plus 1 on top of that counter from the Questing Druid. So that's 3, 4, that's 9 damage. So this Play With Fire here could potentially be lethal. Ben could navigate himself out of the situation.
So Kingman's gonna go down to 8. Untap and draws.
Tin Fang has no cards in hand, so he's just completely face up on table. This could just be lethal.
Oh, Wizard's Lightning! Yeah, it's gonna be lethal.
Yep, this is an additional 6, then the 4 counters on the Druid, the 1 from 1 in addition to another roll token going down on there. So this is overkill right now.
Yeah, it's mega overkill. Ting Fang trying to correct though, but there's more than just dead on board.
Yeah, so there we go. Ben able to navigate out of that situation. Tin Fang though, that again, for everybody who tuned in a little bit late, was a mulligan down to 4 cards from the Azorius Lotus Field Control player, and that situation was still almost able to turn the corner.
Yeah, especially with the Odawara on the temporary lockdown, and then playing it again next turn, this completely basically wiping Ben's board.
That was an extremely heads-up play. Unfortunately, not enough, because as we did say, the Prowess side has that sticking power. The Questing Druid, the light up the stage is very crucial to digging deep into this deck for their cards that they need. We saw Ben kind of flooding out. There were a lot of lands on their side of the battlefield, but because of the Questing Druid, because of the light up the stage exiling some additional things, Ben was able to find the spells that they needed in order to actually close out a game that they, after that bounce on the temporary lockdown, kind of had no reason to win with only 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate that Ting did have to mold the floor there, because otherwise that would have been an amazing game for him.
So now going into the sideboards here, the Azorius control player going to be on the play. We're probably going to be seeing any and all sorts of removal spells coming in.
I'm also going to think also, since I do have information, we do have Aether Gust in the sideboard for Ting Fang, so I'm going to expect him to bring both those in. He's playing those over Distinguished Stroke, which I think is very correct. Distinguished Stroke doing the most right now in the format.
I mean, it can't counter Sorin. It's in theory, doesn't quote counter Vein Ripper, so...
But you can bounce Slickshot Show Off.
You can bounce Slickshot Show Off with that. I also know that Tin Fang is a fan of playing Blessed Alliance in the sideboard, so probably going to be seeing Blessed Alliance coming in to snag an attacking creature, especially if Ben's board is a little bit taller rather than wide. Probably going to grab a Slick Shot or something like that more times than not. Also, just the extra life gain coming out from some of the cards in Tin Fang's sideboard are going to be really solid. From Ben's side, though, the Prowess deck usually has a lot of things to deal with some of the hate cards from coming in. Pick Your Poison is a big one, being able to just make them sacrifice a temporary lockdown. The Lotus Field Control players don't necessarily have like the Shark Typhoons that they could throw in there to kind of like sacrifice them later stages of the game. So a late game temporary lockdown could potentially be just removed and the battlefield completely refilled for Ben off of something like Pick Your Poison.
Yeah, I'm expecting this game to go turn 10. Especially since this is the type of board state that Ting Fang wants to play. He will slow down Ben as much as he can, hopefully Ben does get, I mean, the best possible hand for Ben here is to have all gas immediately, with probably a slick shot, probably one of the two slick shots of hands to try to just outrace Ting Feng here.
Oh yeah, we already saw the prowess deck on the draw, although it was against a mulligan to 4, was still able to put up a formidable board state. So as you mentioned, trying to go underneath, slick shots, obviously a big keep. If you have like 2 lands and nothing but spells and creatures, that's like a snap gift, a sneap from Ben's side. Whereas if you're a Tin Fang side, you're probably digging again for something along the lines of like early temporary lockdown, maybe discontinuity Lotus Field into one of your board wipes or a Wandering Emperor to try to put pressure on the board as quickly as possible. Because if Ben is able to untap on turn 3 with 2 creatures in play, it could be putting Tin Fang just in burn range for Ben.
Yeah. As you see here, both players are talking about the decks for each other. I think Ting also did mention about Hall just not being amazing this matchup.
Oh, well, there's a little bit of a side story from that one. So as we mentioned, when we were testing the stream out, Tin Fang and Ben, this exact matchup was one of the matches that we featured in the test stream. And activating Hall of the Storm Giants with a Teferi on the battlefield, Tin Fang miscalculated his mana and was no longer able to discontinuity Ben's turn and lost that turn because of it.
Yeah.
So Hall of Storm Giants, not the best in this matchup straight up, but also not the best for Tin Fang's
Oh, it looks
mental.
like, so look at it. It looks like Ting, Ori, Snap gives a 7. I do see a Blessed Alliance. Speaking of Hall of the Sword Giants, probably discontinuity in, I think this might be in a Sunken Citadel.
Yep.
So this is a very good hand for Ting. Ben's like, I'm just gonna try it. Doesn't sound like the best. Sunken Citadel comes out. Naming White. We're gonna get a Soul Scar Mage immediately off. So it looks like a similar start to game number 1. To the Hall, now Ting's to play the Hall of the Storm Giants. Pass goes. Waiting to play that Blessed Alliance in the hand. Not sure you do it now. So let's see. Now Ben thinking really hard here. Does he want to shock in the Stomping Ground? Not. Looks like he's just gonna play another land and just swing for 1.
Yep, and it looks like that Tin Fang's decision here is between maybe removing the Soul Scar Mage, but also I think that's an impulse on the top of Tin Fang's hand. So just being able to dig 4 cards deep for a later board answer. You mentioned the Blessed Alliance right under that, so Tin Fang deciding instead to go with the impulse, just wants to dig. It's only 1 damage right now.
Yeah, just 1. So it looks like it'd be a Monstrous Rage, a Lizard Lightning. Ben doesn't seem like he has the fastest hand, but it's interactive.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of spells in this hand, which means that this Soul Scar Mage may have to go the distance. It's also means that there's going to be a lot of non-combat damage happening, so Ben potentially keeping a hand that he knows is a little bit better against Settle the Wreckage, Blessed Alliance, and the type of spells that Tin Fang would be boarding in.
Ting Fang plays out land. Oh, actually, it looks like March of the Otherworldly Light.
Nope, there's plenty of removal options from Tin Fang
a,
right now.
That's a new addition for this Ting Fang Azorius Lotus deck.
Yep, so it looks like Ben right here is kind of considering what kind of cards Tin Fang could have in their hand right now, playing blue, white, colorless land. So just deciding what the play is going to be before just attacking, passing, and playing a Raptor.
I don't think I've ever seen this Raptor card before. I'm not too in tune with Pioneer. So what exactly does this Raptor do?
So the Marauding Raptor is... Oh, sorry, not Marauding Raptor. The... That is the incorrect card. I'm the one that's supposed to be, you know, like pulling up the correct cards, and I pull up the other one. But the Ferocidon. The Ferocidon is going to be a card that prevents life gain, Rampaging Ferocidon from Tin Fang's side. In addition to that, if Tin Fang has anything like Strict Proctor in the list, that is going to be dealing damage as soon as he plays something. So it's also whenever a creature enters the battlefield, so a Wandering Emperor token entering the battlefield pings Tin Fang for 1, so...
Actually, and this also Rapid Ferocidon also just shuts down Blessed Alliance.
It does, because all of a sudden there's no more life gain coming out from that. But Ben's going to be taking a little bit of damage himself in order to play an additional creature here. So it looks like multiple Raptors down on the battlefield for Ben.
Are we sure we're seeing Red Green Prowess? I'm not too sure anymore.
I don't know. This is probably just some card. I know that the Green Prowess decks sometimes play 1 or 2 of these Ferocidons main deck.
So
But it looks like one is going to get eaten there, and there's still one on the battlefield. So that might be the two from the main deck. Might have brought some in from the sideboard just to cut off the life gain angle, but Wandering Emperor does take care of one without gaining life there.
So speaking of the split Trick Proctor, looks like since now going to play it out, this is now this is an opportunity just to play the Lotus Field out.
Yep. Oh, and then counters being able to go on this Trick Proctor means that it's going to be able to play very good defense as well. So Ferocidon does have Menace, so it is still going to be able to attack through for 3 if Ben decides to do so here. However, we do know about the Blessed Alliance in hand can still get rid of the attacking creature, even if it doesn't gain you life. But the Trick Proctor now basically going to be able to play defense against a lot of these smaller threats as well. But Ben, we know, has Monstrous Rage in hand, has a couple of spells, could just potentially be looking for an angle to go here. And
Ooh, it looks like a Pick Your Poison was Shiver. T-Fangs did see the Pick Your Poison either way, but...
crying about the flying creature coming in from Strict Proctor, but Pick Your Poison here would open up a pathway. However, we know about the Blessed Alliance.
Yeah.
So using the Pick the Poison here isn't necessarily going to be life being taken away from Tin Fang, and we still do have Wandering Emperor over here. So Wandering Emperor, if this gets pointed at Tin Fang, he could just choose not to use the Blessed Alliance and just exile the Ferocidon with the Wandering Emperor next turn as well.
Ben thinking real long and hard here. Actually gonna play...
Oh, is that a Fugitive Code Breaker?
Wow, a lot of these, I swear I started Pioneer, guys.
Well, you see, Fugitive Codebreaker has different arts, and this one looks way more goblin-y and roguelike than the original art. However, Fugitive Codebreaker is going to be a card that has prowess, so it synergizes with this list, although it has not been disguised or morphed, for a better sense of the term. It was not going to be having the flip side of restocking Ben's hand, but it is going to be able to grab haste and swing in alongside this Ferocidon at the Wandering Emperor.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a fan of this Fugitive Codebreaker art. This does not look like a goblin to me.
I mean, it looks very goblin-like in the actual picture, but I don't know, it looks more like Mario, like with the pipes and everything going on.
Are you
than
sure
like
that's
an
a magic
informant.
card?
It's definitely a magic card. I mean, it just kind of looks like I don't know, bring it back up. I mean, like Mamma Mia, he's got the pipes and everything over there. It looks like he's got a Ninja Turtle bandana on. I mean, this is one of those alternate art, the case file art. So it fits the theme. I'm just thinking the code breaker here. I imagine with more hair, you know.
So it looks like Ting Fang's gonna play Teferi Hero Dominator. So we're now at the point where Azorius Lotus is playing the controls part with probably one of the best cards in this deck, being an untapped Lotus Field at end step every time.
And it's going to be untapping 2 Lotus Fields because that Thespian stage at the end of turn here, Tin Fang decided not to rip the Blessed Alliance and instead copied the Lotus Field with that Thespian stage, knowing with the Teferi in hand, there's lots of mana here. 6 available from just the Lotus Fields and 7 with this Hall of Storm Giants.
Looks like that dinosaur is going to get lost, so Ben's going to get 2 map tokens here. This could actually not be bad, filtering the top of his deck. So it's not the worst thing in the world for Ben, considering that, you know, I think now you just need to try to dig with these map tokens. Worst case scenario, you're just buffing up this goblin.
Yeah, but we know about the Blessed Alliance in Tin Fang's hand, and there's one additional card that we haven't been able to see. So from Ben's perspective, this might be a turn where he thinks he has to deal with this Teferi. There is a Wizard's Lightning in hand, a Monstrous Rage, I believe, that's been there from the start of the game, and a Light Up the Stage. So now Ben has the hard decision of, do we go face and we get Light Up the Stage so that we can have access to additional cards, or do we try to swing through this Teferi and try to take away Tin Fang's board presence? But it looks like Tin Fang with 2 answers in hand. I believe that's a second get lost next to that Blessed Alliance, which no matter what decision Ben makes now, the Lotus player has kind of turned the corner, and now it's just going to be a slow grind down until Ben decides to kind of give up or packs in the resources here.
So it looks like we're going to craft one of the maps. We're going to see a Player Fire on the top that will what Ben this?
It's interesting because with Wizard's Lightning and Play with Fire, next turn, that's potentially dead Teferi, although Teferi is going to be gaining at least 1 more loyalty from untapping this next turn, so not quite dead. But Ben does have a decision of deciding, is this going to be enough to maybe kill Tin Fang? Monstrous Rage, Play with Fire, Wizard's Lightning, right then and there is 8 damage, and then an additional 1 plus the prowess triggers from the Fugitive Codebreaker is very close to lethal, but not quite there. We do know that with this light up the stage, though, it's going to be instead getting that Play with Fire and a Kumano now in addition to that. So Ben has the option of using Play with Fire on Tinfang's face or Teferi end of turn, but instead decides to go for this Kumano to try to buff up next turn. We know there's no creatures in hand, but if he's able to find another one like a Slick Shot Show Off, that could just be enough to push lethal next turn.
So it looks like the ping is going to go to Teferi and to face.
Yes, because it is addition to opponents and planeswalkers. So this does make Play with Fire and Wizard's Lightning lethal on Teferi next turn as well.
Yeah, so it looks like Ben is actually going to elect to pass, not swing with the Goblin. So probably a very heads up play, knowing that there probably is like some type of removal.
Well, we also had an untapped Sunken Ruin down there, so with 7 mana heads up on the battlefield and a Hall of Storm Giants, that Goblin's not connecting anytime soon.
Tinfang effectively playing with what? 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, potentially maximum 14 mana.
Yeah, that would be a really big expansion explosion.
Oh, looks like actually another. So it looks like it's another. It looks like more mana in Tinfang's hand. It looks like another Lotus Field along with that Get Lost and Blessed Alliance. So it looks like we're gonna have a lot of mana to work with, but not much to do.
I think what Tinfang is deciding here is Tinfang going to animate the Hall of Storm Giants and attack, and then untap the Lotus Fields with Teferi to have access to both removal spells in hand? Or are they going to potentially use the Sunken Ruins and then get rid of the Sunken Ruins and additional mana that was tapped to play an additional Lotus Field here? I mean, right now, Tinfang's really only under the threat of... There we go. So he's going to be animating that and swinging in instead. The only real big threat here is if that Fugitive Codebreaker has a Slick Shot Show Off alongside it next turn.
Yeah, as far as we know, we don't know about that. But if he's top deck it, I mean, we know what we don't know what the top deck is.
We don't know what the top of the deck
but
is.
we are going to scry at least one. So we're going to control the top of our deck here on our upkeep with the Play with Fire.
So Play with Fire going over to Tinfang does mean that Ben's going to get the scry, so down to 14. This means a prowess creature on top, which looks like Ben is keeping whatever's on top, so this kind of signals Slick Shot Show Off. It could be Monastery Swift Spear with the Monstrous Rage and Wizard's Lightning in hand. The Wizard's Lightning won't be able to be cast unless there's also a land, though, because there are no wizards on the battlefield, unless it's Slick Shot Show Off. Then that's perfect. But that would potentially represent an additional prowess trigger from that Goblin, which would be up to 5 damage from the Goblin, 3 from the Wizard's Lightning would be up to 8 damage. Then there'd be additional 3 from Slick Shot Show Off already, up to 11. So Monstrous Rage is exactly lethal, but
I don't think he has it. I think it looks like it's another one of those Goblins.
I mean, that's also not bad if you're able to play it face down and then flip it up later to restock your hand.
Yeah.
And it's going to be getting a counter from the Kamano this turn as well. But we also know that Tinfang has 2 removal spells in hand, so if any of those plays that Ben has as potential outs are actually completely answered by what Tinfang has.
So it actually looks like Ben's going to crack the map again on the other Goblin. Oh, pick your poison. Take your poison, go straight to the graveyard. You can't really do much right here.
Nah, this is the one time where Pick Your Poison looks awkward. I mean, it hit a Strict Proctor, but now there's no temporary lockdown, so this is a little awkward of a sideboard card to have, but you still need it for the matchup. If that Teferi was a temporary lockdown or something, that could be game winning here for Ben. So
go to combat. We're gonna swing in for I think it's 4 damage.
I believe there has been 1 prowess trigger, so 5, but it is gonna be a get lost. 2 more maps.
Yeah,
but no creatures.
At least you get 2 more maps, right? So it's not the worst thing in the world, but Ben having both hands on over his head, it looks like that's a very frustrating position. Like you can't really do anything. Like that's what this feels like, just for Ben's side.
Ooh, Ben decided to pass there. I was wondering if Ben was just going to play another face-up Goblin, even though the haste had been passed by. Being able to play face-up Goblin, have another 1 mana available to crack a map on it, or play an instant speed spell in his hand, but instead just passes the turn here, so potentially looking for that Goblin plus other creature pop-off turn with the Kamano flipping. Kamano obviously doesn't have the same prowess synergy, but it is a second creature to potentially get around a Blessed Alliance next turn.
So it looks like we do have discontinuity in Tinfang's hand, so you're going to tap the mana a little bit differently here to swing with the Hull. So I'm going to bring Ben down to 4 or 3. You're going to play out the other Lotus Field. So untap 2. Oh, untap the Hull again. Wizard Lightning. So things will go down to 11 here. I think King is probably just gonna. I think he's gonna play discontinuity on the main. I don't know, on the flip.
I think what we're basically going to see is discontinuity as soon as Ben casts a spell.
Oh yeah, then it just fizzles.
Yeah. Just to make sure that no burn damage comes across, and there's no reason to discontinuity if Ben's only play this turn is crack 2 maps and swing for 4. Was that a Wandering Emperor in hand too?
I think so.
It's a very pretty looking card, so that's what I'm assuming it is.
It's a very pretty full art card, so it can be anything, knowing Wizards. But we do know at least it's a blessed, and this is a blessed and a discontinuity at least. Along with a Hall of Storm Giants.
We can hear even the players saying, Tin Fang saying, I thought you were going to have another creature this turn.
I love the banter between these two. It's just always just so fun just to hear these two just poke at each other.
Yep. Well, Ben does have Monstrous Rage, Fugitive Codebreaker, and it looks like Wizard's Lightning in hand.
So we're in disguise.
Could be anything.
Wow, what could it be? Oh, well, discontinuity.
So he's not even going to get the chance to play the Codebreaker face down. And yeah, like I was saying, there was no reason to play the discontinuity on upkeep, even though Ben has only one blocker. He can just tuck with the Teferi here, as we're going to see for lethal. Being able to see if he baits out an attack or anything like that and just wins on the crackback would save a spell for any sort of shenanigans that Ben could have had. But Tin Fang is going to be closing that one out with all the tools he needed in hand. Didn't even have a temporary lockdown that game.
No temporary lockdown, and just the most basic removal like you have in this game.
Yep, so we'll see if there's any sort of sideboard that comes out from both of these players after this matchup.
Like, I just lose to Fairy Hall of Storm Giants. Disrespect you as a player.
I really just love the talks between these two.
To Blessed Alliance all 3 mode after animating my Hall of Storm Giant, so I make you sack a creature and untap the hall to block a second creature.
Tin Fang just saying, I had the Blessed Alliance, I wanted all 3 modes on you. That's what I was looking to do there. So, looks like there might not be any sort of sideboarding. I think Tin Fang's sideboard on the play, on the draw against this matchup is going to be very similar. You're just kind of waiting to get to like turn 4 with more mana than you're supposed to have, so that you just have all the answers in the world for whatever the Prowess deck is going to be throwing at you. And from the Prowess side, it looks like Ben might be going back to the sideboard a little bit, maybe considering flipping some things around a little bit. I know that on the play, the Prowess deck is going to be wanting to go as fast as possible. So if there's anything like sideboarding out, maybe Soulscar Mage. I know the deck is on 19 creatures in some places. We might be seeing some Rampaging Ferocidons coming out, as they both hit the battlefield in that game, but didn't do all too much. They ate a couple of Get Lost, and they, I believe, a Wandering Emperor as well. Prevented some life gain, but wasn't the greatest thing in the world. So we'll see if those stick around, or if there's going to be some extra burn spells, maybe a little bit of extra just creatures coming in from the sideboard as well. I don't think there are any creatures that really jump out to me as things you may be putting in if you're the Prowess player. So I'm not entirely sure what those Rampaging Ferocidons could be instead.
Yeah. Now, would you shave on the pick your poisons, like beyond the play?
I still think that the pick your poison is the only answer you have to temporary lockdown. And knowing that Tin Fang had the line of Odawara on the temporary lockdown to bounce it and then re-board wipe Ben's board on a later turn, knowing that that play exists, you want those pick your poisons to get him while he's tapped out. Turn 3, if you untap pick your poison, all those cards except for Soulscar Mage are going to have haste. If you get a Kamano, like, cool, it comes back and it's like flipped, so like you get additional damage and you can start rebuilding the board with counters and everything. So pick your poison, I think, is a necessary evil in this battlefield, in this matchup, to deal with the battlefield that Tin Fang's gonna have.
Yeah, especially I think as well. I think pick your poison probably is just the only answer you do have to temporary lockdown coming out.
I mean, like, the only other answer you have is play around it, which doesn't always happen, or kill them before they can play it, which also on turn 3 doesn't always happen unless you're going like Spear Attack, plotting a Slick Shot Show Off, untapping Wizard's Lightning, Monstrous Rage, or something like that for the kill. That doesn't happen. That's your magical Christmas land of needing 5 or 6 cards completely like that to do it. So pick your poison needed here.
Now, I'm not too sure if Ben is still playing a Tarka in the deck, because I know that's the deck that really made. I mean, if you looked at MXP San Francisco, He was the lone Otarka red player at that tournament. Makes top 8. I remember talking in between rounds and he was just saying, I'm just playing for fun. I don't really know why I'm here. But so looks like we have a stomping ground going into Soulscar Mage. Pass to go. Now Plains pass for Ting Fang.
This is interesting too, because this represents Plains untapped over any other mana from Tin Fang's deck is March of Otherworldly Light.
Looks like that is March of the World in the hand along with the discontinuity and looks like a Wandering Emperor. So Ben gonna swing it for 1. No effects.
Just 19.
Takes a 1 and then we get the Ferocidons.
No, that's not Ferocidon. That
Sorry.
is, was it Magebane Lizard, I think is the name of it? I can't remember 100% what it is. Yeah, Magebane Lizard from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. This is an anti-combo card, but I also know that Ben likes bringing this card in against Lotus Field combo. Lotus Field Control. However, this is a symmetrical effect. So I have seen Ben kill himself in this matchup because of his own Magebane Lizard going for a multiple spell turn. Like right here, Ben hits himself down to 15 to play the Lizard and the Kumano, in addition to that light up the stage. So while his board is completely stacked with that exiled slick shot show off right there, Magebane Lizard could potentially backfire if this game goes a couple extra turns.
I think it's a gamble though that Ben's just willing to take just to make sure that Ting is not allowed to go off ever. We'll see though. So Get Lost is going to happen on the Soulscar Mage. Trigger. So we're going to take 1 here. Go down. Actually going to go 17, 16. Actually, a Mage Lizard. I don't know what answers Ting will have against this card.
I think Tin Fang's game plan against this card is let Ben take as much damage from it next turn as possible, because this is a stacking effect. It's not just 1 damage for each non-creature spell. It's a stacking effect, so it's going to be doing damage equal to the number of non-creature spells they've cast. So 1, 2, 3, and I guess maybe even just deciding to cut it off right here by just playing Temporary Lockdown instead to get rid of it.
If you're doing that, that means I'm
So Ting stabilizing the board state, a specialty of his that we all know. So now, if you're betting here, it looks like you just use a lot of your gas. I mean, actually, I missed the plotting of the Slick Shot show off.
Oh, that wasn't a plot. That was actually hit off of the light up the stage, so he had to pay the full mana for it. But there is a Fugitive Codebreaker and a Gitu Lava Runner in hand from Ben as well. But it looks like it's just going to be a swing for 1 here instead. So very creature heavy from Ben's hand right now. But that does bode well if Tin Fang doesn't have another Temporary Lockdown or a way to bounce it and replay it. This could be something where Ben just plays a second creature next turn, gets an additional spell, and all of a sudden is swinging in for the Gitu will get +1/+1 from having this stuff in the graveyard. It'll be 3 damage from Slick Shot Show Off. It'll be 3 damage from the Goblin in hand if he winds up playing it face up. So he gets haste. So that's 8 damage right there. So it's just a 3 damage burn spell and then 1 more away from just killing Tin Fang next turn. It looks like that's what he's playing towards.
Oh, actually, so it looks like Ben's gonna play out 2 Lava Runners. So going all in now, seeing this is probably the opportunity. Oh no, a second Temporary Lockdown from Ting Fang. Oh, that's gonna be brutal for Ben's side. Ben was debating on even playing that second Lava Runner in the first place. So we're in the sky something here right there. Alright, sorry about that. We're live. A little bit of technical issues happening.
Yeah, so unfortunately, a couple of technical issues there. However, we did see second Temporary Lockdown, a Fugitive Codebreaker that could have restocked Ben's hand, which looks like that it did wind up finding a Monastery Swift Spear. And then on top of that, bought the Gigantha, has now played the Gigantha, but it now looks like that there is a... Is that a High Noon coming out from Tin Fang? There is a lot of potential cards that I would expect from the Lotus Field deck, but not quite High Noon coming in against the Prowess deck, which I guess does work well because it does say that each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. So it kind of winds up working for the anti-Prowess card, because you're just not going to be able to cast multiple spells to get those extra Prowess triggers, but... Still a very interesting kind of thing to come out here. It can also just potentially end the game against Ben if you want to just deal 5 damage to the face. It deals cleanly with Gigantha, but it looks like that there was a Settle the Wreckage from Tin Fang's side that cleared out all the creatures that Ben tried to rebuild with there, unfortunately. So Ben just going to be sighing and shuffling and then reading over High Noon as well.
Shout out to Minty Fish saying temporary lockdown exiled the stream.
It did.
I think that's what did actually happen. So
Is that unfortunately our equipment is mana cost 2 or less.
yeah, I think our equipment here might be a little bit less mana wise. So
Yeah, go
luckily, it looks like we're actually are back. So as right now, sorry for the life totals. We won't be able to see the actual change right now. So we're gonna try and listen as best I can to get a gauge of what life is at for people.
Yeah, so life totals can be ignored here. Also from the fact that the Lotus Field player is solidly in control here.
Yeah,
So the
so-
life totals may potentially not matter, but we will get that
Oh,
fixed in between rounds.
Tinksy's down to 1.
No, he took one.
Oh, took 1.
Took just one from the show off because you can't cast a follow-up spell with High Noon on the table.
Draw. Am I supposed to name red here? Thinking.
Wait, you can't even use it to activate High Noon. Oh no, you can tap
Yeah, I
it
can
for
just
its
tap
red,
it for
yeah,
its
yeah.
red.
Yeah.
We do see players conversing about the fact that if without a Lotus Field or red mana, you can't actually activate High Moon, but it is looking like that Tin Fang may wind up needing to nuke down this Slick Shot show off at some point.
This game is horrible in a way that I never wanted to experience.
Ben talking about how this game is just absolutely terrible for him right now.
You have a red.
So we do have the Questing Druid that is on an adventure. So it's potential to play that card next turn, but you can't play any follow-up spells to grow it because of this High Noon. So the more and more this High Noon is on the battlefield from this standpoint, the more and more it's actually doing against Ben's deck. As we see it, he is just going to opt to sacrifice that Ramanump Ruins, just 2 damage to Tin Fang's face to try to see if he can find a spell that maybe makes this Slick Shot lethal, but Tin Fang was at 14 before we went down, and it looks like with just that damage, potentially 11 life left.
Yes, yes, Peach. That was MXP Tacoma champion Matt Zhu in the background. I know he's on Quintorius tonight, so that's one of the reasons why I'm actually interested.
Okay, I see.
Tonight's a very strong showing of players. Nice to see that everyone's coming out for in the month here at Card Art.
Yeah, 21 total players in the room. These two here are at 1-1, but it does look like this Azorius Lotus Control is in the driver's seat here. We saw Monastery Swift Spear in hand from Ben, in addition to that Questing Druid that's on the adventure, still on his quest. But Ben looks like he's trying to calculate how much damage can I do if I play one of those cards and then fling this Desert Ramanump Ruins at your face again. So that could potentially be 4 total damage. The Slick Shot will be 1. The Hasted Monastery Swift Spear would be 1. And then 2 damage from the actual Ramanump Ruins. But Tin Fang still at a very, very healthy life total. As we said, unfortunately, with the stream crashing, we don't have the life totals that are updating for us, and we'll get that fixed for next round. But we do know that Tin Fang is potentially at 10 or a little less life, so this isn't really threatening lethal anytime soon.
You're gonna memory dealers next turn or this turn. You're gonna draw 2 cards. How do I lose? You play Lotus Field.
So it does look like that Ben is trying to predict what Tin Fang is going to do this turn. Potentially going to be getting a memory deluge.
God, why are you playing High Noon against me? I'm so tilted. How do I lose this game?
But it does look like that Ben really considering what his play is going to be here. There isn't a ton that's left for Ben to really do with only 2 cards in hand and 1 spell being able to be cast every single turn.
Really hard, otherwise I'm gonna start crying.
It does look like we do have updated life totals. Kyle was able to grab those from the players, as you see him on camera right there.
Yeah, that's
So
your
15 to 5. So Rampaging Ferocidon in hand is actually a very powerful effect here from Ben. This could potentially make Tin Fang pop the High Noon in order to get rid of it.
Now, I do know that there is a Teferi, Hero of Dominaria in hand, but there is only 5 mana on the battlefield for Tinfang. There's no Lotus Field available. There's nothing along the lines of extra mana acceleration or a way to get a Lotus Field there. So this could potentially be something that Ben turns the corner with in a game that looked like it was completely out of his reach with all these temporary lockdowns. So big draw step for Tinfang here. Does Tinfang have a way to survive this next turn? Is it going to have to be popping High Noon? Is it going to be Teferi, Tuck, Rampaging Ferocidon?
So it looks like Tang has double discontinuity in hand, so you just have ways to delay the game at least.
He needs one more land to do that on Ben's turn, though. He's only at 5 mana. So this discontinuity plan needs to be untapped land here from Tinfang, and then you're just kind of exploring, you know, playing a land, drawing a card, making your opponent skip their turn. But it's very tense here, because if Tinfang pops this High Noon to deal with either of these creatures, that gives Ben the green light to just start casting multiple spells, and there's still that Ramanap Ruins on the battlefield, I believe. Oh no, the Ramanap Ruins was popped already. So there's no additional Ramanap Ruins from... Oh no, there's a second one down there on the bottom. So Ramanap Ruins represents 2 damage, 1 spell, and an attack from that Slick Shot Show-Off is 5 damage right there, which is what Tinfang's life total is.
Ben's literally pointing, saying it's your fault for playing the High Noon here. But now Ting out here doing the math, trying to see is a possibility to live.
So with that triple Teferi in hand, too?
Yeah, it looks like it is triple Teferi.
Tinfang was drawing all gas, I guess, but no land, which is unfortunate, or at least none of the Lotus Field variety lands.
So actually, we're going to play out the Teferi. We're going to plus.
He ticks up.
You're going to draw, maybe looking for a land here. So we're going to get Lotus Field. We're going to sacrifice 2 lands.
So this finds it...
Very tense moment here. We're going to untap a Lotus Field plus the Vespene stage, copying a blue source. What's the top day here off of Ben? Oh, no. Now Ben now has to do the math again.
You're going to Emperor my Ferocidon, go to 7. I'm going to start crying uncontrollably.
Been doing a lot of math and a lot of potential crying, but Tinfang now, I believe, is that Thespian stage copied that Lotus Field? Because that would then be...
No, I think it's the basic blue land.
Okay, so it's just a blue land. So that means that 4 mana available means that Wandering Emperor is basically what Ben has to worry about here. It also means that you cannot pop High Noon. So there's no removal spell there. So Settle the Wreckage is live, which 1 has already been played on Tinfang's side. Wandering Emperor is live, which I believe 1 has also been cast from Tinfang's side. And then Blessed Alliance is live, which can't gain life, but can get rid of an attacking creature. But ooh, second Ferocidon. So Ben loses a life off of the Ferocidon entering from the other Ferocidon.
Go to combat. I will attack you.
Oh, so we get lost from Tinfang. Ben excited for the 2 maths, because that does get around the High Noon.
That is...
I'm gonna...
That's also 1 damage that comes across to Tinfang. So Tinfang goes down to 4.
Everything hurts. Everything sucks.
And it looks like that was honestly one of the better cards for Ben, actually, that Tinfang could have played. Because there is still the Ferocidon on the battlefield. There is this Slick Shot Show-Off that could potentially represent more damage if this map winds up hitting a non-land.
Oh, but it is going to be a stompy ground.
So a land in hand, a second map being popped here, just really digging for any sort of counters onto this Slick Shot Show-Off, because then that just represents lethal here.
Surge Rage.
That's a hell of a card.
So this does represent lethal. Now Ben's wondering, is this worth...
I don't like this game.
Yeah, Ben basically has the decision of,
does Monstrous Rage stay on top? Because we do know that Teferi can, if we need to, tuck away something this turn. And then
Ooh.
High Noon can be online. So I think what Ben is doing here is trying to find an extra creature, which he does have with that Questing Druid, but I don't know if he remembers that's on an adventure.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either because when you're trying to math out, you start to tunnel vision. You just start to forget the obvious.
Well, I mean, Ben could not have played
no, he
the
can't 'cause
Questing
of High
Druid
Noon.
because of the High Noon, but he could played that instead of the second Ferocidon, which would have potentially represented an immediate answer from Tin Fang because of the ability to get pumped up by the additional spells. Even playing one spell then, an additional +1/+1 counter on the Druid makes that Monstrous Rage, no matter where it goes, as long as it's cast, an additional point of damage, which would be basically equal to what the Ferocidon did, but what it does is it basically gives Ben an extra card in hand. Oh, it is going to be a tuck.
So we're tucking the Ferocidon so we could play another Teferi.
Oh, okay, sure.
We did know that Tin Fang had additional Teferis in hand, just taking a shortcut, putting the one he cast in the graveyard instead, but
Yeah. So we're gonna copy the Lotus Field. So discontinuity is now online.
Discontinuity is online. Everything from Tin Fang's deck except for Flashback Memory Deluge is online. Multiple modes of Blessed Alliance are online.
So discontinuity on the upkeep. That is time in the round.
Let's see if Ben has any responses. Can play an instant in response here.
Ben for saying how much he hates Ting Fang.
Well, that's not Tin Fang's fault entirely.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's,
not Tin Fang's fault.
that's mostly High Noon's fault.
Yeah, I think this is High Noon's. It's like biggest problem.
Stop speaking.
So
Stop speaking.
all right, so discontinuity does wind up resolving. So now Tin Fang going to be able to untap. Does have third Teferi in hand, so could see the same play as last turn, tuck, untap.
So we're gonna shoot Ting Fang for 2. Oh, is that the Shadow's Tidebinder?
No, but the sacrifice is part of the cost from rounding up ruins. I don't know if Tidebinder can target lands, but even if it
No,
could,
I think the trigger does go on the stack, right? I'm pretty sure. So you're gonna Tidebind the damage trigger. So the land still gets stacked, but it goes on the stack. So we're gonna actually stifle the damage here.
that does mean though that there's no additional spell coming out from Tin Fang this turn.
But
Over there is
there's
a-
all sorts of-
all the storm
but
dice.
fortunately, we have another discontinuity. This makes sure Ben cannot play the game.
I don't think that Ben really has a way to get out of this one. However, Tin Fang, with this Hall of Storm Giants, can now plus up the Teferi, untap both of his lands, have a blocker in addition to this 3/2, and then all of a sudden it's going to be beatdown mode.
So end step trigger on the Lotus Fields.
It's floating mana. Oh, he's popping the High Noon!
High Noon right now wait, this could be game. Ting might just have game here. So we're gonna kill the Slick Shot. I'm not too sure what the other what that white card in hand is.
That's a Ruined Halo, I believe.
Okay, we're gonna discontinuity. Ben flaring out his arms out.
Sick magic.
So now Tin Fang has representation of 10 damage from the Hall of Storm Giants in addition to the Tishana's Tidebinder. So that is going to basically lock up the game in 2 turns unless Ben can miraculously chain together 2 burn spells.
So we're gonna activate the Hall here.
10 damage.
Swing for 10, down to 4.
You will get a turn.
So Ben
Ting confirming that you will get a turn.
already looking for the additional discontinuity. They have 3 fairies, so why not 3 discontinuities as well? So basically, if Ben's card in hand is Burn Spell, and then there is Burn Spell on top of Ben's library, this game goes to the Prowess player.
Yes.
That High Noon being popped to get rid of the Slick Shot opens up Tin Fang to exactly that sequence. I don't believe that an attacking creature plus Monstrous Rage is going to be enough because it looks like that there are cards in Tin Fang's hand still that can deal with a creature. Not specifically a spell, however. So this is going to be a very crucial top deck for Ben depending on what's in his hand.
I'll name Wizard's Lightning.
Okay. Ooh, so Tangerine name Wizard's Lightning, making sure so if he top decks it, you can't win the game here.
Monstrous Rage and Monastery Swift Spear, however, now online as a win condition. And Ben looking at his
Oh,
hand.
that's like, this is not too bad. I'm not too sure what's in the hand, but Ben now gonna start doing the math once more.
All right, here we go.
Okay, sorry.
There's the Swift Spear.
What's in your hand?
Swift Spear comes out.
Swift spear.
And what's this 3 mana? Is this light up the stage?
Oh, it's the stage trigger.
All right, so now we just need a spell.
Oh, there's no spell.
It's a land and a Ferocidon.
Probably.
So you're definitely gonna play out the Ferocidon. But it's probably no, the Ferocidon there because he got tucked before.
Yep.
So he got tucked before from the fairy. So we're gonna play out the Ferocidon. Oh, in response to the play Wandering Emperor.
So it looks like it's just going to be make a token.
No, in response to on the
So now the token doesn't trigger for damage. And now I believe with Teferi Tuck, Ben is just dead on board.
Yeah,
This is just Teferi Tuck, activate Hall, swing in.
I'm tired of this shit. Stop.
There he goes.
There it
Ben
is.
recognizes it.
takes game number 3. What a grindy matchup. That's for sure.
That was the kind of deck, the kind of game that you want to see when you get a feature matchup with an aggressive deck against a control deck. You wind up having game 1 where the aggressive deck just kind of does its thing and eventually runs over the control player on a mulligan down to 4, even with lockdown, bounce, lockdown, still closing the game out. And then 2 additional games of the control player top decking their way out of things, setting up a board state that was very favorable for them, and just slowly but surely grinding the Gruul deck out of its own resources, even through questing beasts, multiple light up the stages, just the lasting power that the Gruul Prowess deck has in comparison to some of the others, thanks to Questing Druid, just a lot harder for even some of these control decks to kind of grind through, and it almost got Ben the win there. He was 1 burn spell away from just winning.
So close for Ben, but the second temporary lockdown is strong enough to even mess up our entire stream.
Yeah, the temporary lockdown did exile the stream there for a moment, unfortunately. So a little bit of a lag there, but that does mean that we now have the Lotus Field Control player moving to 2-0, and we still have 2 additional rounds coming. So we are going to be getting into round number 3 in just a second, but we are going to be going to a quick commercial break. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 minutes this time, just to refresh our water and make sure that we have everything back up from when the stream went down. Of course, we are broadcasting live from Card Art in Sunnyvale, California. If you're in the Bay Area, feel free to come down every single Tuesday for Pioneer Evenings. There's also Modern on Saturdays if you want to come in the afternoon, play some Modern. I know Kyle likes that format.
I love Modern.
He'll be here all the time for that. But this is the end of the month tournament. It's 4 rounds of Pioneer. We got 2 remaining, and there's a lot of prize on the line, so don't go anywhere.